Now that we've had 3 LRs, I think it's time to think who's going to be the next one and why would it be who I think it could be. Because we we really don't know. The pattern that is a little wonky here. There seems to be kind of a randomness to it. But there's one thing that's consistent. So the first LR was Lost Vein, which just made it look like, LRs were going to be festival units. And, looking at the festival units, yes, there's a lot of festival units that need buffs, so it would make sense. Lost Vein, Blue the One, Goddess Liz, Festival OG King, right? Those are all festivals that aren't that good anymore. Goddess Liz was good not even that long ago, but right now she's not really that good. But those characters could use buffs and they would have been in the meta, like Lost Vein became. But then we got Green Escanor, so it became a question of, is it characters that, I don't know, were impactful to the game? Because Lost Vein was very impactful, he was the first festival. Green Escanor was very impactful, he was the first Escanor. And if you look at the trend of popularity for the game, those are peaks. The first festival, Lost Vein Meliodas, Lost Vein Meliodas would have been popular even if it wasn't a festival, because it's just Lost Vein Meliodas. But Green Escanor was huge, right? But then, what is this? Red Liz? If it was going to be a Liz, there were so many other options that I think would have made more sense. Okay, not so many, because when you look at Liz's in general, there aren't that many Liz's. In terms of versions of Liz's, right? It's either going to be Goddess Liz, or Base Liz, or Liz Hawk. Liz Hawk, I thought if it was going to be a Liz, it was either going to be Goddess Liz, because she was a festival, in the first anniversary festival at that, or Green Liz, because she was the first banner ever. She was the first banner unit in the game when JP came out, and she got top grossing as well. So it is something that means something, right? Red Liz is just kind of a random unit. It really is. So the question becomes, what is the criteria? I think the criteria really is sins, for now. And you might think, but Liz is not a sin. I think they kind of count her as sin. If you look at the festivals when they were coming out, we got all the sins, right? We got all the sins as festivals before we got new stuff. And Liz was part of that. I think that they count her as part of like the main group. And if I was to guess what festivals are coming up next, I would say part of the main group is what I would venture to guess. I would say that the Sins or Sins plus Liz would be the next thing coming and in the future as well. So we look at the Sins here. There are obviously many options, but I would like to pick 1 or 2 of each character to really emphasize it. There are definitely characters that I think, made impact in the game that aren't Sins, but I don't know. Those are characters that I think made a bigger impact than Red Liz, but that doesn't seem to really be the reason why they are becoming LRs. It's just kind of random, and I think it's based on the character and what they do and how they can improve that ability. Maybe they thought that, for example, Green Liz wasn't going to make a good LR. Maybe they thought that her passive, couldn't upgrade into an LR as well as the red one did. I think that could be a criteria. I'm not sure. It's really hard to say. But I think that many of these characters here have passives that could, bring them on to becoming an LR. Let me start with Diane. I think the green base Diane, this banner that she came out on, was the exact same banner as Escanor. She came out alongside Escanor, and it was obviously a pretty successful banner. I mean, an Escanor banner was going to be successful, right? But this character was very, very strong at launch, and her passive and what she does can easily become an LR. Her giving herself the shield at the beginning of turn and taunt, right, could be a monstrously annoying LR. they could make her so strong. And then the taunt, they can make it even stronger. Now the attack, of course, you'd have to do something about it. No, it's not the best. But that's okay. That's okay. Her relic. Her relic is also not the best. I would say that this is really the only thing that I would consider that maybe would make it so it's not this one. The relic is that when she crits, she heals for 30% of, is it her max HP or remaining HP? I believe it's max HP. I'm checking it right now so I'm not mistaken. If they were, you know, to lean in to this relic, yeah, it heals 30% of max HP if he crits. Maybe the blue Diane could be it. Where is she? Because this character is like a crit-based character. But I don't have her 6/6 there. But if I'm thinking a character that can easily become an original LR, a character that would be unlike the current ones that we have, because, you know, you look at Ascanor, he's pretty much just like a DPS, right? Meliodas too, but like a different way. Liz is very different. I mean, obviously she was going to be different because it's Liz, but she's like a support, PvE support. I think making the green-based DN LR makes more sense to me, but who knows, right? They could even make the red one if they really want to, but I think that what she has can easily become a very, very strong LR. Now moving to, let's say Bond, right? I think that when you look at Bond, the older Bonds, they would need so much work, but Green Nunchuk Bond, for one, is a really sick character, but I don't know if they want to make coin shop characters LRs. I don't know. They avoided making a Red Ascanor, but that's, you know, that doesn't say anything, because Red Ascanor, he wasn't as impactful as Green Ascanor, I would say, in terms of the game's hype and when it released, right? But I don't know. Are they willing to make LRs coin shop units? Are they not? That's definitely going to be a factor. But for Bond, I think making Nunchuk Bond LR would be crazy. It would be insane if they just said, you know, whatever, and just made Purgatory Bond an LR. I would say that I don't see it happening, but I don't know. I want to say they shouldn't happen, but who's to say, right? There's no... After Red Liz became an LR, I really can't put my finger on if a character should or shouldn't be an LR, like based on how good or how old they are. It's more, I think, can their kit become a good LR? I think it's my my first thing. When I look at these other Bonds, it's like, I don't know, man. This blue Bond, I guess he could become a good LR. His passive of stealing defense could be good. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. They could, obviously. This Bond with the is it like the lifesteal? His whole kit is about like lifesteal, right? I'm not sure. Then you have the other Red Nunchuk Bond. This one maybe could be a good DPS. I just think that out of all the kits, if I was to look at one that could make a very absurd LR, it would be the green one. They could make his snatch, you know, very, very powerful. They could make his passive based on the snatch. They could make the card do more damage if snatch is active, you know, leaning into what the character's purpose was when he first came out. There's just so much they can do with green Nunchuk Bond over the other Bonds that I think it would make more sense. King, I think King is a pretty obvious one. You know, that's the character we were expecting to be released over this list that we got. Festival King, definitely they could do something with him. They could lean in to the whole debuffing thing and make it a crazy debuff meta. And, you know, looking at what Elaine brought us, if the AoE card was to do a lot more damage, plus you got the debuffs, it would be pretty crazy. Like, this character could be pretty crazy. The only problem I have is that when it comes down to, you know, the Elaine I just mentioned, right? You got fairies, which... Fairies are in an interesting position where they have a phenomenal support unit on, you know, because she's recent, like, she just came out, Elaine. And you got only really one other usable character, which is Festival King, the other one. So if a new king becomes LR, okay, right? You can make it work, sure, but then you're gonna have to need another fairy for the full fairy team, for Elaine, whatever, right? But if a king became a festival, I think Festival King would make more sense. We were throwing in that Blue Skinny King could also become a festival, and I can see it happening if you base it on the fact that his passive is already like a basic stab booster. If they leaned in and make it like a 30%, and, you know, obviously add on a bunch of stuff on top of it, yeah, I just don't see it with the Petrify card. I think the Petrify card doesn't make for a good LR. Maybe that's just my headcanon. They wouldn't make any sense, but that's just the way I see it. I think that the Petrify card would make it very hard for a compelling kit for an LR. But maybe it could happen. Maybe it could happen. The healing card, I can see it. Maybe they could make something with the healing like they do with Red Liz, right? Where Red Liz, when she heals an ally, she builds up her passive. I don't know. They could make something like that where if he heals or cleanses, he builds up, you know, a passive as well. Hard to say, but I think Festival King is the more likely, in my opinion. I talked about Merlin. No, Merlin, I think there's two options for Merlin, which are the old green base Merlin. Now this one, I was really pondering if it would be, you know, reasonable or not, because her passive is just give one ult gauge. Would they be, you know, willing to make it so it's like give one ult gauge and buff unknown basic stats? There's already enough unknown basic stat boosters. Enough is enough. There's already enough unknown basic stat boosters. So please, no, you know, give us something original for unknown. But they could, right? That's the only way I would see this. Or they could just, you know, instead say, whatever, let's make it so her whole kit is based on the shield. The only thing that screams not LR to me is the take off alt gauge card. And when I look at the other Merlins, they could really make this blue Merlin LR. I think they could, because she has a lot of very underdeveloped things going for her. The passive where she gets more, is it attack or basic stats? I think it's just attack. Per debuff on the enemy could be so strong, paired on with not only a buff to it, right? Increase the passive by another like 10 lines, and then, you know, you put her in the team with a lot of debuffing, like the current team for Unknown has a decent amount of debuffs. She could be very strong. This character could be very strong. Like they could make her good LR. Like Blue Merlin isn't a character people are gonna think of because, you know, she was a very unimportant character in this game's, you know, life cycle. But looking at what she does, she could be a good LR. Oh, I said true, but I guess Lolly Merlin. She is old enough. It doesn't feel like she is to me. I don't know why, but she is definitely old enough that she could be the Merlin LR. You know, I think it's because she was somewhat used until recently with people running her with recovery gear and Tarmiel Link, but she definitely could become an LR. Her kit is already somewhat developed because she came in at the cycle between characters that were a little, you know, less, I want to say interesting or well developed, like Blue the One, for example, and started coming with characters that have more going for them. You know, there's like, if you really look at the cycles of characters, there's definitely a breaking point, which was Purgatory Bond as well. Like, I think Lolly Merlin, and then, was Purgatory Bond the LR after Lolly Merlin? I'm trying to remember right now. I believe so. Like, those two characters came in with passives that were different, and they had more random stuff going for them. Lolly Merlin definitely wasn't as good as in day one as, like, Purgatory Bond was. But it should be Purgatory Bond really was the big one. That was like, okay, it was Merlin, then Zeldris. Zeldris, I don't count because he wasn't a festival, he was a Holy War festival. Have they stopped making Holy War festivals by the way? I think they did. I don't know. But, I don't know if I count. No. Was Demon King Holy War festival? I don't recall. I think the Dark Units aren't Holy War festivals. I think they're just different. Anyways, Lolly Merlin could be. Her passive is already a little more, I want to say, intriguing and interesting than some older characters that have become LRs. They have, like, it has more lines to them, right? But they can, they can definitely make it into an LR, make it stronger. And I think for the Sins, the only one I'm missing is Gowther. Gowther has Gowther has really one option. Because when you look at it, there's only, there's the rank up. Would they make the rank up Gowther, so that being either green or red? I think, whatever they would make would be the same thing, right? It's just the rank up, right? The rank up would become an LR. Would they make green or red Gowther an LR? That's definitely possible. I think if I was to choose between the two of them, like I said, I don't know if they would make coin characters LRs, and that's just speculation of mine. Green Gowther definitely would make sense, but it literally is like, what could they do that would improve on the rank up card? It's just, I think that to them, it would make sense to not even give Gowther an LR until every single character gets an LR from the Sins, and then they do LRs for like other characters, like some other characters that have been impactful, like Zeldris, for example. Like, by then, I mean, like, that's 2 years from now. Like, I mean, like 2025, right? Because LRs come in every 2 or so months, and we're about to end 2023. And they could wait all this time. They really could. And then by then, Demon King's are just long gone from the meta, stuff like that. Because rank up is just such a, that would be a difficult one. That would definitely be a difficult one to work with. They could just not improve it at all. They could just leave it as is. They have improved every single card from every single LR we've had, but we've only had 3 LRs. They could just leave it as is, right? They could, but let me know what you guys think. Do you think my theory of the Sins is unfounded because Liz is technically not a Sin? I think it's pretty based and uncringe, but let me know.